Okay, so again, I'm with my good friend, and we're just consolidating an exchange of information in the interest of humanity. So I just want to be clear, I'm going to recap for you what I understood from our last visit, and I'm going to write down corrections and clarifications. So just for anybody not familiar, I've worked for 3 years now on the Hampstead case. And I've worked from the perspective of a survivor and somebody with a very high level of discernment for disclosures by children. I flagged before I ever met Joe that I had concerns about approximately 20% of the content of the disclosure videos, of which I've seen about 35 and still have, or maybe not. But I had radar going off that 80% of what these children are disclosing is true. Joe is a world-renowned expert on parental alienation. He's also done research projects on things like piranha parenting, Project Violent Mouse, and so on and so forth. So we've come together in an unlikely way. And what I want to recap is what I understand from my last conversation with Joe. So Joe, as I understand it, was consulted by Scotland Yard in his capacity as probably the foremost renowned international expert on parental alienation. The angle Scotland Yard were coming at the case was that the mother was complicit and the mother was framing the father. My perspective, after about 2 years of research into the case, was yes, the mother was complicit, but they both were, and they were jockeying for victory in a double jeopardy, double cross, where he had apparently shortchanged her £240,000 in drugs, child porn, snuff movie, and distribution monies. Yeah, Russian drug cartel in London, child porn, snuff movies, and a pedophile ring operating. And my understanding from intel I received from somebody a year ago was that the mother had also been complicit, but the father had got greedy and he had double-crossed the Russian mafia. He had also double-crossed his wife, and her plan was to expose the pedophile ring and put it all on his doorstep and the pedophile ring participants, and then escape. Her plan was to escape. Her plan also was to get the children to safety in Russia and basically throw the father and the pedophile ring under the bus. It backfired. She didn't manage to get the children out. Sadly, she abandoned the children. She got away, so basically we have both parents complicit. The father is currently hailed as innocent and a victim, and allegedly has full custody of the children again. The mother is somewhere in Spain or Morocco, and there's not even an Interpol search warrant for her. So it's a big mess. So my understanding of what Joe told me is that he was consulted in his capacity as an international parental alienation expert to evaluate the videos. On his evaluation of the videos, he noted some very crucial evidence, one of which was the fingernail length of the children varied to such an extent that it gave a lie to the narrative that the testimonies were taken over a 3-week period. There was a month in Morocco where the children originally disclosed, allegedly, and then about not very long at all in London. So we're talking maximum 5-week disclosure period, but according to Joe's analysis, the fingernail growth of the children indicates that it took place more likely over about 3 months. Also, there's evidence, allegedly, and this is just intel I've taken from Joe, that the children were featuring in child pornography whilst in the custody of the mother and her new boyfriend. And this is based on the t-shirt and marks on the t-shirts, the dress, the clothing the children were wearing at the same time as they were producing disclosure videos, allegedly in safety away from the pedophile ring. Footage also showed up on the dark web of child pornography featuring the children in the exact same clothing, with the exact same mark on the exact same t-shirt at the same time. So this indicates that some form of not only abuse but filmed and disseminated abuse was taking place whilst the children were in the sole custody of the mother and her boyfriend. And just the other thing that was referred to was the mother's involvement with a group called Gloria's Children, which I've since started to investigate, and it's been suggested to me that this is a support group of mothers who have had their children stolen from them by the state after they've reported pedophilia by their partners. And the Gloria could possibly be Gloria Musa, the case of, I think it was an African lady, couple who had 6 or 7 children taken from them in the UK, and with which the Mackenzie friends were heavily involved. Just personally, I am severing ties with the Mackenzie friends, having been contacted by children's home survivors and having been shown evidence that the Mackenzie friends, there are too many pedophiles around them for me to write it off as targeting. And there's Roger, I'm not sure on the names, I've got them in my notes, Greek Lever, there's Terence Ewing. There are major pedophiles around the Mackenzie friends. There was also the fact that John Hemming, one of the major sponsors, was accused of abuse by Esther Baker. I haven't heard her testimony about John Hemming, but I have seen the Australian 60 Minutes documentary, Lords, Spies and something else, superb documentary, and I find Esther Baker's testimony in that regard absolutely credible. And not just that, I can corroborate, because I believe one of my abusers in a military pedophile ring was Lord Bramall, whom Esther also cited. So there's that. And I have to say that in my work, I was saying to Joe that I have a radar of discernment when listening to the testimony of children or old people. And the next level of discernment, I would claim, would be children's home survivors from the 60s, 70s, 80s in the UK especially. I've done my work. So my feeling, sadly now, is that Belinda Mackenzie is showing up more like an Esther Ransom gatekeeper. And that, rightly or wrongly, I think Peter Hofstrauer, I know that whistleblowers can be framed, but 38,000 child porn images on his technology since 1998, that doesn't come across to me like a frame-up. And similarly, Norman Scarth, when I expressed to him on an email link group that I could not throw my weight behind Peter Hofstrauer given the history and volume of child pornography on his computers, Norman made a case, or tried to make a case to me, that had nothing to do with the abuse regarding his mother, the financial abuse, and the veracity of other areas of his defence. And sorry, you know, I believe he's been ripped off with family inheritances and so on and so forth, but you will never find me throwing my weight behind somebody who has a child pornography problem. So I also was contacted by a survivor that went and stayed with Norman Scarth, you know, in his capacity as a Mackenzie friend, to be given assistance, and was brutally abused to the point where he still has physical injuries and, you know, is in fear and is in hiding, really. So we've got Norman Scarth, we've got Peter Hofstra, we've got Terence Ewing, we've got, by association, Roger Gleaver, or whatever his name is. That there are too many pedophiles around the Mackenzie friends for me to associate myself further, and I am sorry to those who, you know, who've been horrified at me defending them. And I'm always open to being wrong, but I'm just saying this is a bridge too far, and a very gracious children's home survivor victim went through it with me. I contacted him and said, you know, why have you removed me from such and such a group? And he said, because of your association with the Mackenzie friends. And then I said, can you tell me more? And he did. So I really honour that kind of thing, where if somebody's got a problem with you, come to me. This is what I say. Because of fake news and character assassination and smearing and so on, if you hear something, please just put it on the table. I'm completely open. And this is what happened, and I conceded that my loyalty had been misplaced. In my opinion, I still might be wrong. Sadly, I've also held out that Sabine cannot be guilty because she suffered so much in pursuit and defence of the Hampstead children. She's been arrested 8 times. She's on bail. She's gagged. It's like Robert Greene, you know. She's lifetime gagged, and, you know, she's 73. She's disabled. She's traumatised, and so on. But why was it bleached from the records that Terence Ewing had been a Mackenzie friend? Why did Belinda tell me that, you know, she wasn't the founder of Mackenzie Friends, it was another man whose name just coincidentally was Mackenzie, and blah, blah, blah. You know, why... I've had amazing footage sent to me of demonic activity at Belinda's home. I've had footage not just of orb activity, but I think I get hacked and I have footage removed, but it's possible I could still find it. I had footage of this little green light going into the studio garden apartment, which I stayed in for 5 days, coming in for surveillance purposes, encountering somebody there and realising they were filming and withdrawing. Now, I don't think that was the same as demonic orb activity. I think that was actually a drone. I think that was a surveillance drone. And I think when MI6 or MI5 or whoever it might have been realised they were being filmed, they hot-footed it out of there. I know there are tunnels under Belinda's home. I know I've looked into the Iran thing, and I'm horrified at that whole angle of things. I'm not interested in throwing Belinda under the bus. She may have some genuine, you know, I don't know. I'm sorry. Mene Tikula Parson weighed in the scales and found wanting. I can no longer stand behind Belinda, and by association or default Sabine, and John Hemming, and Norman Scarth, and Peter Hofstra, and so on and so forth. So I'm just trying to think if there's anything else that Joe told me which I have not relayed, or which the one thing was the fingernails. The other thing, oh, Gloria's children, which may or may not be the Musa case, which I can look into further, but that could be not not some malicious father framing, you know, witch thing. It might be genuinely the likes of Vicky Haig and Anna Gregg, and so I completely believe Holly Gregg as well. I completely believe the sincerity of Robert Greene as well. And I'm not saying I'm an expert. I am quite qualified in a lot of areas, but what I'm encouraging people to do is use your own discretion. And what the other understanding I have from my last meeting with Joe was that he was contacted by Scotland Yard. He was furnished with video disclosures. He was consulted in his capacity as an internationally renowned parental alienation expert. He confirmed that there were anomalies as in the children's fingernail differences and the appearance on child pornography sites of the children in the same clothes as when they were apparently allegedly disclosing. But my understanding from Joe is that he had analysed the videos in the first instance and then put some rather pointed questions to Scotland Yard, because Joe is very, very skilled in the legal field and just has that ability for discernment, and he put some very relevant questions to Scotland Yard and received answers that were unsatisfactory to him. I wouldn't call it at that stage smelling a rat, but his radar kicked in and said, no, that's bullshit. I don't accept those answers. They're not what I was asking. They're not satisfactory. So still in his commitment to serve, Joe then referred on the case. He called in, he recommended, he passed on to 3 other experts in the field, one of whom based in America and allegedly flown over from America to continue the investigation. Is there anything I've left out?
Well, it's basically that.
Right.
The thing is, I'm going to try and tick my brain as far as I remember.
Okay.
And it's just, this whole thing has got a long run, and very few people know it. Okay, as far as I remember, Draper and what's the name?
Christie.
Huh?
The boyfriend is Abraham Christie.
No.
The father is Ricky Dearman.
Yeah. Okay. Ella Draper and Ricky Dearman met each other about 2002, 2003. Mm-hmm. And they had a relationship. Mm-hmm. That as far as I remember first. Second thing is, they broke up 3 years later. Around 2006. They broke up. Six years after that, no contact between father and the children.
No, that's not accurate.
That is as far as I remember, and there was sporadic contact, but no official contact. Although there was court-ordered contact, Ella Draper prevented Ricky from.
Well, she frustrated it. Yeah, I accept that.
Okay.
But he had contact. He didn't around. I think it was 2010. He voluntarily relinquished contact and went to America.
Yeah, because he was.
She had frustrated contact. Yeah.
He was completely broke and couldn't handle all the costs anymore, as far as I can remember and understand.
Okay. Carry on.
But in the process, it became clear that he is going to win. It became clear from court documents, evidence, etc., that with the developments worldwide in recognizing pathogenic parenting, and so it was clear that at the end the children will go to him, and so at that stage, Ella started a campaign of indoctrinating the children with initial abuse allegations of that apparently happened during a short contact, a contact that was a few minutes long, but the abuse, according to the evidence, would have needed at least a few hours. So that was the first. Then she realized she made a mistake. Then I think it was around 2014. February, March, April, May 2014. Around there. Ricky had contact with the children for the first time since October 2013.
Yeah, he took a year off. He went to America.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't remember. I don't.
Okay.
After a period of renewed involvement by the London Borough of Camden.
Yep.
They started assisting. So he had a little bit of contact again.
Yep. Once every 2 weeks for 8 hours on a Saturday.
Now, then, it was about that stage when Ella Draper met, what was his name?
Abraham Christie.
Yeah.
May 2014 she met him.
Mr. Christie.
Yeah.
Around that time.
Yeah.
In June 2014.
Yep.
There was evidence that things started going very ugly.
Yep.
Very ugly.
Yep.
Now, Mr. Christie, as far as I remember, has got family members that is members of the British Police.
Yeah, has a brother-in-law who's a special constable,
Yeah,
Jean Clement.
Now, that is as far as I roughly remember.
Yep.
And I think it was also in that time, June, July, August, September 14.
August they spent in Morocco. 2014, August, they went to Morocco for a month, Ella and Abraham.
So, but he also, he then contacted his family member and say...
On return, he went to Jean Clement.
Okay. Yeah, they did. They were in Gibraltar and Morocco, as far as I remember.
Yep.
I cannot. You see, I have deleted all my notes and files. I have to now talk about from the little bit of memory I have, which is very little. Okay, so sorry, please. Forgive me if I. Can't remember things properly anymore. Then it was also in 2014. Yes, I think November 2014. November 2014, Ella Draper's legal team told us we can see through everything. As a matter of fact, they used the modified American Prosecutors Research Institute's questionnaire. The modifications was done by us to add more things. And after doing that, after completing that questionnaire, the legal team decided...
Resigned.
We're gone.
Okay.
Because this woman is lying.
Okay. Okay.
That caused quite a bit of trouble. There was apparently attempts against... claims against the legal team and blah, 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 blah. But that is as far as I remember. in 2014.
Just for factual purposes, to ground this, can you remember when you were contacted by Scotland Yard?
I can't remember the dates anymore.
Okay.
That was in 16, I think, yeah.
2016.
Okay,
one more
let
question.
me just
All right,
get to this.
all right, sorry.
Now, in 2015,
Okay.
It was around 2014, 2015 when the first videos and allegations surfaced.
Yeah.
And this it was done in a subtle way so that it was a limited audience. A limited audience of so-called experts, so-called trustworthy people, and so.
I'll give you the information I have on that. In August, the children disclosed, August 2014. In September, assistance was sought with Jean Clement, a legal team, Brian Gerrish, Bill Maloney, and so on, so 2014. Then in November, they were released in Russia.
Yeah.
Russia. Let me just say this, Joe, let me just finish this. The first release was in Russia, which is interesting because Ella is Russian. The second release was on the dark web, which was discovered by a Welsh campaigner researching for other purposes on a different case he was working on. He came across some of the children's disclosure videos on the dark web and he released them. The third disclosure was an accidental, quote unquote, CC copy to Theresa May, which resulted in them being released in February 2015. So there were 3 levels of release from November, December, February of 2015.
Oh, yeah, no, hang on. It wasn't December 5th. It was earlier.
February 2015 was when they went viral. That's when 80 million people saw them. But they had previously been released in November 2014 and December.
Before that.
Really?
Yes.
They were only disclosed in August 2014. So what is the earliest release?
August 2014.
Were the disclosures in Morocco?
It's around there that... so, in August 2014, I think it is August 2014.
That's when the disclosures were in Morocco, and the disclosures to Jean Clement were September 2014. And he passed them straight to Scotland Yard.
Ella, he passed them to Scotland Yard.
And Ella passed them
to... was, because he was, the information he was given, he was very worried.
Yes, he was. And also, at the same time, Araya, who was an ex-girlfriend of Abraham Christie and a new best friend of Ella, she tried to take them to Brenda McNamara, who's been campaigning since the 60s, and she tried to get them to Bill Maloney, and John Wedger was involved at some point, and Brian Gerrish, and they also felt like something's not right here, and they found themselves the way to the police.
Okay.
So I agree.
It
started to be disclosed and disseminated from September 2014.
In September 14.
Yeah.
As far as I remember, it was the first heavy investigation that started.
Yeah, it lasted 5 days.
I can't remember how long it was, but it was very cleverly done, the investigation. What the children said, and the priest went and he put things in the drawer and that and blah 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 blah, and so they took a piece of paper and said, okay, now what can you remember? Draw what you did see and things, and all that evidence was collected and put ready. Then they took police, independent people and the kids, and they travelled to the different places.
Yep.
And nowhere could it be, was any possibility that said evidence could be true. Like for instance, let's say drawer. There was placement of drawers, and the children could remember it perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
But when they arrived, such drawers didn't exist. But what came out 2 years later was quite interesting, where the boyfriend served as a server. The drawers were exactly the same.
In a restaurant?
No, in a rectory. So he did see, and he actually explained to the children and indoctrinated.
The boy was an altar boy? You mean in his childhood?
Something like that. Now that I haven't confirmed that. That is just what I understood.
Okay, let me just tell you the intelligence I have regarding that. And I have some really good intelligence, and the people I got it from have had death threats and chaos since they disclosed this. One is that this is documented. Even as the children came in to give their video testimonies, the police, those that were involved, were alerting other people. They are on record saying, yeah, they're here being interviewed right now. Many of the alleged abusers, including the headmistress of the school and maybe even the priest and so on, they were called into a strategy meeting by social services. Social services took the children, then they had an emergency care meeting with those involved, and they included alleged abusers. Also, the search of the church sacristy and the description the children had given did not take place. There was a gap between when the information came out that, oh my God, these children have disclosed, they've gone to the police.
Exactly 7 days.
This is going to be... Okay, good. 7 days. In that 7 days, I have testimony, video testimony, from a local resident who filmed. He went down to the school. He's a documentary maker. He's made films for BBC and Newsnight. And he's a well-renowned, very successful filmmaker. He went down to the school and he filmed them blocking up tunnels from the school to the church. He filmed them cleaning up in that few days between when they knew that the gig was up and when they got checked